Hello. Thanks for joining. This is my Hearth Basket. It's not a beginner basket by any means. It has a little more difficulty to it. I was starting this one with a 6 wide 8-inch tall handle, 5/8 reed. This was the first hearth I ever worked on and sold it for years and years. These are 10 pieces at 20 inches, 5 pieces at 24 inches. Some 5/8 for weaving the first few rows, 7mm or 1/4 inch for the slope, some round reed for the rim, lots of my favorite clothespins by a carpenter and a lady and a carpenter. Get that backwards every time. I have snips, I have a knife. I'm not going to probably use that knife today. Heavy duty bent tool, love this thing. Some scissors, good scissors. So, as I mentioned, it's not a first time basket, but it's much like one of your first time baskets. You just have to have a little bit of experience. So I'm going to put everything aside except for my base pieces. They're all over there. I start every basket the same. If you've seen my videos, you know that. Put them to the side. The first thing you're doing, if you've been weaving baskets, and hopefully you have, is bed side up, rough up, Harry's up. 2 pieces, center, find the center gently, mark the center, put the handle in the center, put pieces either side of the center. You can use 3/4 for this, I guess. As years went by, I did. But this is my original pattern. I've been doing this well over 30 years. So, briefly, again, if you've watched me before, you know that the one next to the handle is an inside, so that when I weave around, I'm doing an outside. Just little details that make life easier for me. And you. Okay, rough up, Harry. I lift what I want to go under, sit back, push them in, under, and it's just this simple. My fingers are educated, they know which side is up. Tip, and you know this if you've been weaving, is that if your coil, usually whichever way it comes off the coil, if the rounded side is the rough side, then they'll all pretty much be rough on the rounded side. See the bend of the coil. So I'm changing my life here a bit. I'm going from, there we go, do this side, under. I'm going from wholesale, and 42 years of wholesale, lots of wholesale, 80,000 and counting baskets made and sold, to teaching, selling on Etsy, teaching. I want people to learn to make baskets, somebody to take over that wholesale operation. My son is doing some of it, but there's plenty of room out there for wholesale basket makers. This is a favorite basket. I don't know that the Chinese ever made something like this because it has more dimension than they used to. But if you're inclined to make baskets for a local store, go for it. This is a great starter basket for them. They'll love it. There are several sizes. I'm working on a Patreon channel to teach you everything I know. And that will be up in about a month, and Hearth is going to be, I'm going to move that a little bit. These weren't centered very well, I see. I've got less on this side and more on this side. The Patreon channel will have everything you want to know for people who want to continue to make baskets, possibly for a living, for gifts, to teach. You can use this to teach your own class. Send them to watch the video, prepare the materials, and teach a class. I do. So I'm bending up the spokes, upsetting spokes, because I know there's some people watching this that it might be one of their first baskets or something they're really interested in and want to know how basket weaving really goes. So you're gonna hear things that as a regular basket maker, you don't need to be told, but I'm just doing it for everybody. So we're upsetting all of these spokes all the way around because, as you know, that clear line around the base is what gives you a basket that's easy to weave. So we've upset the spokes all the way around. Now I'm going to get the 5/8 flat, find the best piece I have, check for Harry. You know Harry. Harry, this is rough on one side. Go under, under, back, under, under. I go back as far as I can before I have to turn a corner. There's my bend. I did 2 of them, remember? Okay, pin. Everybody needs a pin once in a while. Stand this up, go around the corner. Around and around. Stopping at this corner, making a bend but not a crack or crease. Around, around. I don't really like to move my basket off the table for the first row. I will pivot it, turn it counterclockwise, such as, well, I shouldn't have moved it off the table, but I have limited space here for your viewing. So weave around and around, come back to where you started and make sure it looks good, pin it, stop weaving. So we're gonna stop, snip, start again. Now I like to start on a different side, or at least a different section. So I'm gonna start here. Again, all my unders. Unders, as you know, is all I care about. Under, stand these up, make that corner nice while you're right there. That way the next corner will be nice. You won't have to fidget with it later. Stand this up, and I'm standing it up at the crease. See, that wanted to bend in a different spot. That's why the crease is so important. Now, the first row we went around because we had our hands full. Being able to go around the outside of this was wonderful. If the first row we'd had to do this and go inside, things can go awry. So going inside the second row is not nearly as bad. I have to excuse my hands. I was dyeing reed for a colorful class and I have dye everywhere. Now here's our last row. I cut that a wee bit longer. I moved a spoke, so I'm going to cut this out here. Go right over that. Now you should not see the end we started with is inside. Come over this one, around, stop weave. That's what it means, stop weave. Here, I'm a lap weaver, but for your purposes that doesn't work out very well. So I'm doing it on the table. I would normally start on this end, but I don't want a lot of thickness there. So I'm gonna go one more turn. Come here. Like I said, this was one of my very first it was my very first Hearth Basket style. And boy, they ate it up. Anywhere I put it at a show, it sold. It was always the first to sell because it is so unusual. And I displayed it, I styled it with a loaf of bread, whatever, something that would go on the table that you can take somewhere. My friend Barbara Zanks has a Hearth Basket a size bigger, an 8x10 handle. And she has carried that thing for literally 30 years. And she takes it everywhere she goes. She's bought them for other people because they try to steal hers. But this is a fabulous basket and everybody likes it. Okay, I'm using 4 rows. 5/8 flat on this basket. As the years went by, I could make the same basket with less materials, same number of pieces, if I use 7/8 on these sides, the 10/7 at 7/8. Made a longer basket for the same amount of work. So that's what I did. But this is the original, and I wanted you to see it, especially if you only have 5/8 kicking around. Again, for this end, this could be filled in a little bit more if I had used 3/4. But when I first started out, I didn't even use 3/4. I didn't carry 3/4. I very rarely used 5/8. 7/8, excuse me. And the reason for that is that all my baskets were stained. And big baskets just don't hold up their shape as well. So when they're only stained, now I paint everything and you could drive a truck on it. Now we've gotten this far, and the point of this basket is it's going to have that slope. So we're going to put one row all the way around of 7, this is 7mm, 1/4 inch is what I used originally. Really partial to 7mm. I don't know why, it's got a little bit more body to it. When I first started, 1/4 inch looked pretty much this wide. And you're wondering how 1/4 inch can look like 7mm. Well, if you know, this material comes from China, and they use millimeter period. And if the closest thing they have to 1/4 inch is 7mm, I think. Now what you see me doing here is pulling up because I want this all packed. This is a packing. You probably know about packing. Please forgive me for repeating myself, but not everybody knows it all. I want these to all be settled down and as tight as I can get my rows. I don't want to do this to make that happen. Pull them down with my fingernails. Partial to my fingernails. So here I simply put my thumb here and tug. And I want it to sit on 4 corners, so I tug a little more in the middle, push that handle up, go around, do the same thing. That's what you saw me doing, is pulling this up so this corner sits on 4 feet, the 4 corners. This is all important because your material shrinks. The longer you soak it, the more it shrinks. So I basically dip my materials. They're very rarely in the pan very long. The base pieces can be in longer, but the weavers, not so long because they're going to swell up. And if you don't do a really good job packing, when it's dry, you're going to have gaps and it won't look great. Now these two are going to be bent over. Bent over. I'm going to get rid of this right now before I forget and start weaving the whole basket again, because I need to weave on either side. Now I'm going to find a way to correct my mistake. Here, see those little short, this little short bugger? Pull up as much as I can, see if I can stretch, get the reed stretcher out, maybe a dab of glue. I am not opposed to a dab of glue. Now, the sides. The sides are easy once we have this row. And the reason we put this row on is so that we would have something to lace over when we put our rim on. So here, we're going to put our reed through and tuck the end back here. So we have a nice end. And weave around to this end, pull it out, make sure it's not caved right in or your basket won't look as nice. Bend around the end, weave, 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 under, under, under. Now when you come to this one, you're going to decrease. So every row you go 1 less than the row before. And make adjustments. I'm on this side, I'm going to make adjustments on this side. Again, make sure it's not caved in. Weave, 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 under, under. See that? Bend, decrease. Around the end. Around and around. This really is quick. So, decreasing with every row. Until I get to here. Now, I'm going to bend this last one and tuck that last one. And I don't want a lot of clumpiness up here at the top, so I'll figure that out in a minute. So these have been cut really long. There were a lot more than I needed here, so let's trim those down. Trim it. And bend. you end everything, so I'm sure you know how to do this, but you get a nice tight bend and tuck it and bend and tuck, and there you go, all the way along. My secret weapon is I use my finger to push here. It makes an opening that I can feel inside. I'm gonna move over one here so you can see that. See my other videos, you've seen me do it 100 times. Push here, push here. Bend snug, I pull up. I guess you don't see me snugging that up to make sure there's no loose in it. Nice crease, push in, tuck in. Pull in, crease, tuck in, all the way to the end. And this one was sticking up here. I don't want that sticking up for my rim's sake. So hold it down, manage this basket. Don't let it manage you. Okay, now this one, I think I'm just gonna tuck this back here because I want something to bend over, but I don't want to bend out. It ruins the look of the basket. You can do it, but I don't love it. Okay, I cut this, but before I do any bending, I'm looking to make sure I have all my stair steps, because occasionally, especially when I've added on or done something like this, I may have missed one. I may have started up here, done something wrong. So I want to make sure I have the stair steps so that my rim will lay nicely. What I use for a rim on this is a 5/8 or 3/4, depending on what you have. But this is mostly 5/8 and 1/4 inch. So if you want to stick to those, go for it. Now what I do personally is, because my rim is going to lay on these high points, which I'll show you in just a minute, I kind of nip off about half of these. I'm going to put a piece of round reed in between my rims. And if I were putting it on this side, see, it would be hitting all of those high points. Where if I put it over here with those little points nipped off, it just makes a more finished edge. So again, rim is flat. I often have some really stiff stuff going on. So what I do is hang on to that because it actually makes really good rim. And this is one way of starting my rim, to start in here in the center, there, at an angle. Lay it on really tight. Do a good job pinning this thing. This basket has a lot going on. I'm trying to put a flat piece on a sloped piece around a corner, so I need a couple of breaks here, and that's one of them. Start and stop here. It just gives me a little flexibility for what I'm lacing the rim. And I might leave a little extra because I can trim it later, but I have yet been able to grow reed at the end while lacing. Again, really, really tight, snug pinning. But on this end, see why we use the 7mm here? I want my round reed to sit up here. I want this to be an easy transition. Loads of pins. This is probably the basket that I use the most pins on. The stiffer piece I have is going to become my outside rim. Now this isn't an ideal round reed to go in the middle. It's what I have right here in the shop at the moment. For right now, I'm using these a little smaller than I like. But normally I'd use a 3mm, a number 3. I think this might be a number 2. It might be a number 3. And I'd use a number 4. I use what fits best in this space. So it's sitting right on top of here. Let's see how nice and finished that looks. This is what it looks like. Pin and pin tight around those corners, because not only is it a corner, it's a slope, it's a lot of things. You're not going to get that buckle out of there because it's flat across this end, but turning that end, and the bulge has to go somewhere. We just work it out as nicely and easily as best we can. I cut these on either side just so that I don't have a lot of bulk here, and I'm overlapping this just a smidgen because, as I said before, we do not need, we don't have a reed stretcher for this application. So cut this to stay over there, cut this a bit long. Now my lacer, lasher, whatever you call it, I am going to find an opening, poke this inside like we did our ends. Just poke it in there. It's not going anywhere. Nothing's gonna pull it out. Go around the basket 2 times. I know that'll give me enough. This is where the tool comes in. I use this tool every day. Make an opening, but make sure you're going between 2 rows. Otherwise, you'll be lacing a rim and the rim will be coming off here in a minute. That won't do. Here, in each hole, then I sort of park it in the next hole. Whoop. Now I gotta adjust my rim just a bit to get in there. Come on, come on, come on. My grandson says, come on, little Timmy, get in there. I know. That's what happens when you spend a lot of time with a 6-year-old. You start to sound like a 6-year-old, or the cartoons they watch. But alas, I love being your grandmother. Okay, so I'm going to pull with my right hand at this angle. Naturally, that's how my arm is going to work. I'm right-handed. If I were left-handed, I'd go the other way. But I'm also pushing with my left hand to help it go around that corner. So let's see if I can get close enough here to the table where I usually do this in my lap. Now here's the opening. We're going to make sure our opening is good here for putting this in. See how shreddy and hairy that gets? That's why I look for my best piece of material, because that's what happens on the underside when you're dragging it through every one of these holes. And there's a bunch of them. So I'm pushing, really giving that a pull. Pull, push. I do both. See that in here? Pull, pull, push, yarn, yank, whatever word you like. Do it. Grab that one. Settle it down. Change size. See, I'm working a little bit of that. This is why, see that slack? Well, I'll work it out when I get to the corner. And it's because we're going around a corner and up a hill. We just went around a corner and down a hill. Now we're going around a corner and up a hill. Okay, snip this. Now we can be a little more precise while we're here, and it's going to be tight and anchored down. Now I'm going to cut this one. I'm going to cut this. Try to match them up a bit. This fiddle. This is worth the fiddle. Come around the handle. I like the look of the X around the handle. In old days, if you weren't using the D handle, and they didn't, it would keep the handle from wiggling side to side because you would put an X around it. Here, here. Back to here. Look at those hairy, shreddy things. Glad my material's not wrong side up. If I had gotten my reed upside down, what I would be doing right here in the back is twisting it and turning it over. And mostly people won't notice. So I went in the one next to the handle because it's a long gap down to here. And keep going. Now you see if we peek under here, I nearly went here and there's nothing there. So I've got to make sure I'm going between 2 pieces right here. See that? Almost went off the top. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. Even if you're just dyeing or staining this basket, there's enough body with a flat rims are not something I often use, but I have that rigid handle. That's holding this whole basket nicely. And because of the slope, this doesn't feel floppy when you're done. It's also not one big round rim. You've got the handle in the middle and you've got a couple short sections. So I don't fret about using flat. After 43 years, I still don't make a perfect basket. Oh, wait a minute. I started in 81. This is 23. I think it's only been 42 years. Oh, well, aged myself another whole year. See, again, that gap. So it's nice having the overlap here where I can work that gap out quickly and easily. It doesn't take me long to make a basket. I make primitive baskets with primitive finish, but if I wanted to make a perfect basket, it would take me twice as long. I don't do perfect. I do handmade. My ex, see my ex. Next, and to end, I want to pull my inside out as much as possible, fill that gap. So I'm going to make an opening between my rims, but I'm making it after the round piece. I'm going to push it in there, pull it here. I might have loosened that, so I'm going to push it back down and snip. Now, shape now. Once it's dry, shaping will be next to impossible. And there we have it. My original hearth basket. I love it. I hope you love it. If you've enjoyed the video or you found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and comment. By all means, comment. Maybe there's something I could do better. Thanks for watching and happy weaving.